Back in the days of the arcade, everyone played with the exact same controller, the joystick and buttons that were built into the machine itself. Game developers didn't have to worry about accounting for different controller types. Nowadays, we do. And there's been a lot of talk about gamepads versus arcade sticks, and now even leverless controllers. Leverless is essentially a keyboard and gives a competitive advantage over the traditional arcade stick. This has made a lot of people in the past angry about its existence, and some have even called for it to be banned in competitive settings. But you can't ignore the blessings that come with leverless. Playing fighting games at a high level can cause carpal tunnel, which is obviously really bad. Leverless controllers are technically safer to use than other controllers for this reason, and even people who have hand issues can continue to play fighting games on leverless and wouldn't be able to keep playing otherwise. So this issue is not only about competition, it's also about accessibility. One of the main things I think about regarding this issue is the dash mechanic seen in so many fighting games. As I said in a previous devlog, traditional fighting games were born on the arcade machine, a machine that doesn't have analog inputs. So you can't distinguish a walk and a run by how far the stick is tilted. You're either moving or you're not. So if you want to dash, then you have to double tap the stick forward within a short window. But this is difficult for some people, and for others, it's straight up impossible. So now what? Dash macro. By creating a dash button, you're essentially making the mechanic way more accessible. However, there's two problems with this. The first one being more buttons. I mean, there's already 6 buttons in a lot of fighting games, right? You have 3 for punch and 3 for kick. So to add a 4th button, or 7th actually, to add a 7th button for dashing, it's kind of a lot. I mean, that's my opinion, but I know I'm not alone with this, that fighting games should not have more than 6 buttons. But I mean, whatever, right? I mean, if that's just my opinion and the opinions of some, then just don't use the dash button. And if you don't hold that opinion that 7 buttons are too many, then do use the dash button? Wrong. That is incorrect, because that leads me to my second issue with this, which is that the dash button has a competitive advantage over the double tap to dash, because double tapping at minimum takes 3 frames to input, because on frame 1, you input the forward direction. On frame 2, you release the forward direction. And on frame 3, you input the forward button again. Compare that to a dash button. It only takes 1 frame to press the dash button. The problem is that we are human. We are not robots. We literally humanly cannot. I mean, some of us might if we're like crazy, but we literally cannot input this in 3. Do you know how fast a frame is? A frame is 16.67 milliseconds. That right there, bro, I promise you. Bro, that's like 5 frames at minimum. Maybe 6, maybe 7.
This is how fast you can input a dash on a keyboard. That was 7 frames. Let's try again. 6 frames. Let's go really fast. 7 frames. That was 5. Bro, I can't get below 5. Let's try on this. That was 8. See that? 8 frames, dude. Let's try this, yeah? Was it 8? 9? 6? 10? 7? 9? 8? 11, 8, 12. Even here on the phone, look. 7 frames, 10 frames, 11. Compare that to the dash button.
My point is that this is a lot faster. You have a huge, and it's easier. It's easier than we have a problem here. Yes, we want to make the game more accessible, but if this is a lot easier than this, then nobody is going to use this. Okay, so then the question becomes, then why not just remove this and just have the dash button? Right? Bro, where's the button? Designing the game around the phone is very difficult. It's very difficult to design a game around a mobile device that has no buttons on the screen. I talked about in a previous devlog the quad stick layout that's on this phone, right? The bottom left of the screen is used for movement. The bottom right is used for attacking. The top left is used for blocking, and the top right is used for grabbing. Okay, cool. How do you dash? Well, the obvious answer would be you would do this. The same way that you do this. Okay, where's the dash button? Ain't no dash button. And so if I want to prevent this guy from having a competitive advantage over this guy, I will have to draw a virtual button, a virtual dash button on the screen. I don't want to do that. That would ruin the whole quad stick layout thing. At that point, you might as well add a bunch of virtual buttons. So I thought, and I brainstormed, and I was like, man, okay, well, what if I make the dash button have a startup of like 3 frames, right? Because if I'm saying that at minimum, to double tap the dash, you need to at least input the thing 3 frames. 1, 2, 3. Even if you give the dash macro 3 frames of startup, those 3 frames are still slower than the 10 to 12 frames of double tapping on a phone or analog stick or whatever, or this stick. So then I thought, and I was like, if it takes roughly 7 or so frames, I guess, for example, to input the dash, then why don't I just make the dash macro also have 7 frames of... Basically, the dash will have a minimum of 7 frames of startup, meaning that if you press the dash button, then you will have 7 full frames of startup. However, if it takes me 5 frames to input the double tap to dash, then I will have only 3 frames of startup for the dash. And if it takes me more than 7 frames to input the dash, then now 0 frames. The dash comes out immediately.
All right, check it. We press the dash button. Execution time is 0, but the startup frames are 7. Compare that to the double tap to dash. 6 frames of execution, so only 1 frame of startup. Here, where the startup frames are negative, it actually clamps to 0.
And with this, the speed difference in the input is a lot less because, yeah, sure, if you input the dash in like 12 frames, that's still slower than 7 frames. But at least now, if you're fast enough, then there's no difference between the guy who presses the dash button versus the guy who double taps the dash on their gamepad or stick or whatever. Thus, getting rid of the advantage that a button has over the leverless guy, and his advantage over the stick, and his advantage over him. And everyone's happy. The accessibility's there. We're all cool, chilling. And yes, the dash button is still, of course, easier to use, but at least it's not competitively above anything else. And that, to me, I think is what matters, that we can have our cake and eat it too. To my knowledge, I'm pretty sure that Nizaal is the first fighting game ever to feature a variable startup. And it makes sense because number one, not every fighting game has a dash mechanic. And number two, in the last 35 years of fighting games, we really didn't start talking a whole lot about this issue of different controller types until relatively recently, I'd say, especially with the birth of the hitbox, right? And so, sure, fighting game players, people within the fighting game community can talk about it all day. But are those talks making their way up to the conference room within the developer studios? Maybe not. I don't know. And so for that reason, I think that's why we have yet to see a fighting game with a dash that has a variable startup. Again, I could be wrong. Perhaps someone has thought of this, but it's just a really dumb idea, and I'm not seeing how dumb it is. But from what I can tell, I think it's pretty good. It's pretty genius. So not trying to, but like, come on. So anyway, yeah, be the change you wish to see. And if there are flaws within the design, please let me know, because I want to make the game as good as I can, for me, for you, and for all of us, right? So yeah, like, sub, comment, and deuces.